Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm here, as always, with Chris, the technician Aceto, on this June 5th, 2017 afternoon. Wow, we are in June, Chris, and I can't even believe it. Half the year is gone already. Oh, my God. You know, only like a month left till I get my shoulder replacement done, and I'm starting to panic a little bit because it's getting a little too close for comfort at this point, you know.
What is the procedure on that? Like, I guess the question is, how many live with shows are you going to have to miss?
I don't know. It's a good question because I'm going to be in the hospital for 3 days, so we may have to pre-record. You know me, I'm a neurotic. I'll have to pre-record like a week's worth of material so that I don't have, I won't miss anything.
Yeah.
I'm doing it on...
Now, when you get a shoulder replaced, when you get out, like, does it take like 2 to 3 months to crank it up, or can you just like, I'm out and I have a brand new shoulder? Is it like a new tire?
No, the problem with the shoulder replacement is getting to the shoulder joint. So they have to cut the infraspinatus tendon, one of the rotator cuffs, so they can access the joint. I mean, they can cut through your front delt, but that's easy because they just separate it basically. But then they have to actually snip the. And I think I mentioned this to you before, that they cut it actually. They don't even cut the tendon. They cut the bone where it's attached, so they can just stick the bone back together. Because bone to bone heals better than tendon to bone. If you can figure that
out. On Stump the Technician, I actually remember from.
Yeah, and then they got to saw off the top of my humerus, put a metal ball on there, and then they got to basically all the arthritis that's in the actual joint itself. They basically bore all that out with some kind of like a sander, I don't know what they use, and then they actually screw in a like cup, like another socket joint, but it's made of like plastic, unfortunately, because I don't know. That's the best they got right now, which sucks because it can break, if you subject it to too much stress. And they screw that in, and then they close you up basically, and supposedly the joint pain is gone. Pretty quickly, because they're replacing the arthritis, taking out the arthritis. But then you have to be in a sling for 6 weeks, and you can't do anything because you have to let that rotator cuff tendon heal, which is the worst part of it, I guess. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm sure there's got to be surgery pain. I mean, when they cut off the head of your humerus, there's no doubt about that. There's definitely going to be surgery pain for the first, I would say, 2 weeks. I don't know how long that's going to take to go away. The surgery pain is probably the worst. Once that's gone, then it's like just chilling out until they decide to let me start moving the thing around. Now I would assume I won't be actively moving it for 6 weeks because they don't want that tendon to pop off again. They want that to heal. That's going to be the hardest thing because I use my hands a lot. Even though I think about it, I have a bad shoulder, but I'm always using my hands, even if I'm not reaching overhead because it's too painful. But I'm using my hands. I carry the baby around. I clean my snake things. I do a lot during the day. Text all day long, answer emails. So I don't know. It's gonna be an adjustment because I have a lot to do every day. To be honest with you, Chris, I'm not even stressed about the surgery, although I will when we're driving there. I'm more stressed about what I can't do at home and help out, as far as with the baby and everything like that. I feel like a huge burden of guilt in one sense.
I sent you that comic strip. You don't really handle much anyway.
Yeah, we don't really do much. We don't do much anyway, but we do a lot, unfortunately, because it sucks when someone else has to do everything from you, especially when you guys have so much to do during the day. I mean, we run 3 businesses.
Did you ever think when you're 25 and you're doing 150-pound dumbbell shoulder presses that you'd have, a dumb shoulder 25 years later?
Yeah, they kept telling me that, but I just said, "Fuck it, who cares?" Right now, I'm fucking huge. I gotta get bigger. You don't worry about it. Really, because let's face it. You always hear that question they asked all the Olympic athletes.
It's not going to happen to me.
No, well, they asked the Olympic athletes many years ago. They said, "Look, if you can win an Olympic gold medal, would it be okay for you to die in 5 years? If you had to give up, the rest of your life." And I think most of them said, "Yeah, that would be fine." But I wouldn't have said fine to that. But if someone's going to tell me you're going to have severe arthritis later in life, from what you're doing now, it wasn't even an option. Who cares? All right, yeah. When I'm old, I'll worry about that. I want to be the best bodybuilder I can be right now, and if I can push through this, push this weight up, then that's great. And that's look, to be great at anything, you have to be willing to sacrifice something. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Look, Ronnie Coleman sacrificed. Look, no one wants to go through 8 back surgeries, but I guarantee he would do it again. He even said, he goes, I wish I would have done more weight on that when he was front squatting or back squatting, 800 pounds or something like that.
Well, listen, I know exactly. I think I may have told you this story once before. I was standing with someone on my boat. It had to be 20 years ago. This guy who loved bodybuilding, and we were in Florida, and he was getting paid by a big, company, like a big corporate, big Fortune 500 company, like $3 million. His salary was $3 million a year in stock options and everything else. And he said, "Do you know why they pay me $3 million a year in stock options?" I said, I didn't even know what he was really asking. I guess because you're worth it. He said, "No, that's the sacrifice for not being able to spend any time at all, period, with my family."
Right.
Because he said, I get paid $3 million a year, so if my wife needs $1,000 dress, she doesn't need a $1,000 dress, but here's $1,000, and I feel better about myself because I have no time. So he ended up quitting that job.
He did?
Because it was killing. Yes, he said it was either going to, it wasn't going to kill him, but it was going to kill his family. In other words, the sacrifice.
Right.
He always said the reason they pay us so much is they expect us to sacrifice everything for the job. And in this case, he said it's so overwhelming, I don't even have time to see my kids.
Yeah. Well, you and I are lucky in the sense that we work for ourselves, but we're always working too. So I mean, it definitely has an impact on your family life. I mean, look, in the ideal situation, you could make the money you're making and wouldn't have to work all day long. But unfortunately, when you make a lot of money, it's usually because you're putting a lot of effort into what you're doing.
Next time around, Dave, you should just go out and try to marry money. Sorry, Amanda. I said next time.
You and I wouldn't do well with that.
You can just marry money and just
no, because you and I wouldn't do.
Would be bored.
Well, you would be bored, but it wouldn't even that we'd be bored. We wouldn't want to be beholden to that person.
Would feel insignificant to the family. Would be like,
We don't want to feel like insecure, because that's insecure. What if they'd say, "Get rid of you"?
Yeah, insecure. That's right.
I know guys that don't do any work and their wives make all the money, and I could never do that. I like that Amanda and I work together, actually, at the same business, even though she's not as passionate about the business as I am, because she's running it, but,
you're running a business and you're running a household. People don't people don't understand it, but that's complex. When you have a family, it's complex because you're running a household, which is really,
and we got another baby coming. Think about this. Think about what's going on in my life. We got 3 businesses. We run RxMuscle, Species Nutrition, my Dave Palumbo Enterprises. We have 1 baby already. I'm getting a shoulder replacement. We have another baby coming in December. So
wait a minute. Wait. Backtrack.
Yeah.
And you have a double size whatever. Your garage is filled to the brim with snakes.
I have a snake collection that my wife is not happy about now because she likes it when she doesn't have to do anything. But when so I'm actually, if anyone out there lives in the Cape Coral Fort Myers area and wants to help me, wants a job for a couple months,
snake cleaning.
Yeah, helping me with snake cleaning, because that's going to be a big problem for me. I have to find someone who's into the hobby or who just wants to make money and wants to work for me for it could be forever, if they're good, I might, but definitely for 6 weeks until I can actually get back to doing what I'm doing. So if anyone's out there listening, then I know you guys are out there, let me know. I got a lot of quotes of the week this week. I'm going to give one right now because I like this quote. I'm dying to say this quote. Maybe I'll do another one later. Only the guy who isn't rowing has time to rock the boat. Which I think is relevant to what we're talking about.
Isn't that true?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I tell my kids sometimes, I'm too busy to get involved with people's nonsense.
Yep. Only the guy who isn't rowing. There's a lot of guys who aren't. We just talking about guys that don't want to work. Those are the guys who are home, on the computer, complaining and trying to cause trouble with everyone because they got nothing else to do. Start rowing your boat. Row your own boat. Don't rock everyone else's boat. That's my advice. So this week, Chris, I am actually traveling with Johnny Styles on Thursday to Italy, to Milan.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, we're going to the Yamamoto central manufacturing facility there, and we are going to do a video tour, so you guys are going to get to see the inner makings of Yamamoto. We are also going to go to my good friend Alessandro Savi's house out there. I'm going to meet his parents. They're going to supposedly make us a crazy authentic Italian dinner, which I've never actually had. I've never actually had an Italian dinner in Italy, so.
Oh, wow.
That'll be exciting. And, of course, Rosetta Mortati, I don't know if they're married, but the girlfriend definitely. I'm probably going to get yelled at because I don't know this. But I think they are married, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we're going to be out there with them.
Who's going to yell at you, her or?
I don't know. You know what? I said to I forgot that who did I forget was married? For some reason, I forgot that PJ Braun was married like a year ago when I did an interview with him. I thought he was. I called Celeste his fiance or something like that. I forgot they had gotten married, which is ironic because now I think they're getting divorced or something like that. At least that's the last I heard. But anyway, I can't keep up with everyone out there. I have memory issues like that.
Because you're rowing all the time.
I'm rowing all the time. That's what the problem is.
I mean, you can't, right? You don't, and you don't know if you're rowing forward. You're coming or going. What's that saying?
Yeah.
You don't know if you're coming or going. Forwards and backwards.
Yeah. But so I'll be in Italy. My dad will probably be calling me 600 times a day. My dad's in this assisted living. They moved into the memory unit at my behest and their behest because he needs to be in a controlled environment. It's pretty much the same thing. They just can't wander off. They don't let them, wander wherever they want. Because my dad was walking into people's rooms, but in the memory unit, evidently everyone walks into people's rooms because no one knows where they are.
That's exactly what happens, Dave. Because my father goes bananas when people come right in, and some people look like they're they're debonair, they're well dressed. I think and they look younger. It looks like they work there, but it's just somebody wandering around.
Yeah. So
it's
we
just like that movie. What's that movie where they did the L-Dopa?
Oh yeah, where they woke up, Awakening. What's it called? Yeah, with Robert De Niro. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, my dad needs some to be awakened. My dad's fully awake; he just can't remember anything that's going on. And the weird thing is that it's constant. We were walking down the hallway to his new room yesterday. We had just gotten there. My dad's sitting in the hallway with one of the nurses. There, I don't know what he was doing in the hallway. Maybe he was going for a walk. All of a sudden, since he's gotten there, he doesn't need to use a walker anymore or cane. He's walking on his own. So I guess that's a good sign. But so he's in the hallway. He's like, oh my God! He goes, how did you find me? It was like we just were walking down the street and we happened to just bump into each other in the middle of Paris, France, or something like that. I said, Dad, you live here. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, you live here. He's like, how did you know I was here? I've been trying to figure out how to contact you. I said, well, I'm glad that you know who I am. I said, but...
You know what, Dave? Every time I go to the memory unit, my father, first thing he says, how'd you know I was here?
Oh, he says the same thing?
I used to get, dumbfounded, but then I said, well, I gave Ma a call, and, she called my sister, Anne-Marie, my sister, and... They said that you came in here for a haircut. And, just
does he think he's leaving though? Does your father know that he's living there?
No, at some point, last time I came, he had a suitcase.
Yeah, my dad was packing suitcases every single day.
A suitcase, and he was throwing stuff, like pictures, and throwing them in the suitcase. And
my father is such a slob, but he packs an amazing suitcase. I don't know how he must have learned it from the army or something like that.
Military.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that's where he learned it.
Because the nurses kept saying, should we unpack this? I said, well, I've already unpacked it 3 times. I said, aren't we moving to the memory unit tomorrow? They're like, yeah. I'm like, leave it. He did us a favor. He packed up all his shit. She's like, oh, you're right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can give him hope by saying, we're going home or we're going to Italy, and they'll calm him down for a while because in 10 minutes they'll forget what.
He thinks he's in Spain though. He doesn't think he's in Florida. He thinks he's in Spain.
Does he think he's speaking Spanish to you or speaking English?
I should bring Johnny there and tell Johnny just go in there and just start talking Spanish to him. See if because he does speak with Johnny and Kareem once in a while. And Johnny and Kareem are like, your dad sounds like he spoke his whole life. I said, well, he's lived there for a year. And he remembers, I guess, some of the expressions. He's hitting them with expressions and stuff like that. So,
well, they blend Italians. Like my father would blend Italian and Spanish. And people in Miami would look at him and say, what do you, what's he trying to talk? I don't know.
My dad doesn't know Italian because his dad refused to let them speak Italian in the house when they were growing up because he thought they'd sound like rednecks, like not rednecks. They would sound like what was it called? The immigrants, coming over. He didn't want it to sound like they're wetbacks. That's what he called them.
Yeah. It's funny.
So we're going to Italy this week. Thursday we leave. You get there. You leave Thursday. You get there Friday. Hopefully, I won't have any connection problems this year.
Hope they don't overbook you and drag you out by the shoulder like they did.
Tell me about
that doctor.
Yeah, this is like the last trip before my shoulder replacement. So once this is done, I know that the only thing I have to look forward to is getting my shoulder replaced at that point. But I'm looking forward to it. Yamamoto is a great company. I'm really excited to go see. I love to go to see. I'm such a little nerd. I love to go see how people produce their products. Even though I make my own, I just love to see the manufacturing of it. And you know what? I don't know if you've ever walked through any of these facilities. The smell is so amazing because you smell all those artificial flavors that they use. Like all the fruit punches and everything like that. And it's just in the air. It's it permeates the air. And it's. When you go certain places, you just know what it's going to smell like, and I know what it's going to smell like, and I love it. I don't want to leave. It smells so good. But so I'm super excited, and they got some great products. And they're a company that's really high end in the sense that they produce really high quality products. So people are like, I was trying to buy those Yamamoto products. They're a little expensive. I'm like, well, they make good products. You're not buying shit. So. People that get confused, they think, well, if they're a huge, big company, they should produce crap and they should be cheap because that's what big companies do. But no, not all big companies. This is a super high-end brand, and that's one of the reasons why I have no problem getting behind the brand and letting them showcasing it because I feel like I'm doing a good deed in a sense. That people are getting good quality products. And obviously Yamamoto has been very instrumental in all our coverage over the last 6 months, and they will be our official Olympia sponsor as well. So we'll be out in Las Vegas this year, back to Vegas.
We bring in the newly unbanned Lee Priest out to Vegas?
I don't know. That would be interesting. The Lee Priest interview was very, very popular. Obviously that was the mystery interview of the week. Johnny was... did some amazing little teaser intros for the thing, and no one guessed. I don't think anyone guessed who it was. People were thinking Kevin Levrone, they were thinking Dorian Yates, they were thinking Flex Wheeler.
Arnold.
Yeah, Arnold. I forget. One of my good friends asked me, was it Arnold? I'm like, I wish. Oh, no, Aaron Singerman asked me if it was Arnold, and I said, Aaron, I wish. I said, everyone was trying to get me to tell them. I wouldn't tell them, though, because I knew if I told one person, everyone would know. Yeah.
You do this. Don't tell anyone, and 30 seconds later, it's everywhere.
Yeah. So, I'm glad that Lee was... Lee contacted me and through another person and wanted to do an interview. And I said, look, Lee, if you're going to do an interview with me, I'm going to ask you tough questions because that's what everyone expects. I'm going to ask you why why did you leave the IFBB? What possessed you after winning that Ironman Pro Show, the Open, for you to leave and go to that PDI, whatever, with Wayne D'Amelio, that idiot? And he said, fine, you could ask me whatever you want. And I said, before we do the interview, are you remorseful? I said, that's my question, because if you're not, I don't want to do the interview because it's not going to play well. And I said, I'm not endorsing your lunacy. I said, because you had everything to gain. You were on top of the world. You were the most popular bodybuilder at that moment in time. I think you were more popular than Mr. Olympia. I think more people wanted to know what Lee Priest had to say and what he was doing next than any other bodybuilder. And you fucked it up, I said. And I said, are you remorseful? He goes, I am. I said, okay, fine. You don't have to kiss ass. I said, but I'm going to ask you those questions. I want to hear the real Lee Priest, what you feel. I said, and don't worry if people are going to say, oh, Lee sold out, because that's bullshit. You got to tell people how you feel, and then you know what? And then people will want you back. I said, but if you don't show remorse for what you're doing, and you seem like you do have remorse, then no one wants you back. I don't want you back then, So he said, look, I'm going to do a real interview. I'm going to give my real answers. I'm not going to worry about I never worry about what people say. Okay. So we did the interview. It played well. He's got a lot of good opinions on things, and we got a kind of an update of what he's up to. And he's having, some neck issues as well, neuropathies or whatever you want to call them, nerve impingements. And I think we'll see him. I think we might see him on stage again if he can get that arm back to what it was. People just love Lee. Why do people love Lee Priest so much? Because he's a little freak. That's why, right?
Yeah, because he's freaky. He's like a combo of like Franco Columbu and Tom Platz.
Yeah,
short. He's outgoing. He's happy-go-lucky. He's got the legs and the arms.
Yeah. And he had that white hair. People love that.
Yeah. The
good-looking guy.
Yeah. Can you imagine the pose down last call in like an Olympia, like Jay Cutler, Lee Priest?
Yeah, no. Well, he was top 6 at the Olympia.
No, he had certain years. Lee Priest at certain times was phenomenal. At certain shows, yeah. He was phenomenal. And other shows, he was always very, very good.
Yeah.
He had a couple bad, like everyone. He had a couple of shows that he didn't look good at. But, it seems like he sold himself short in terms of, I think what everyone who's been around the sport, was waiting for is for him to just to really be, just to continue, because he was on the right trajectory all the time. He was always freaky, and that Olympia in '98, which was just a crazy stacked Olympia when Ronnie won. I think Lee was like 5th or 6th, and he was.
I think he was 6th. Yeah, he was 6th maybe.
That was a crazy lineup, and he looked crazy in that lineup. That was probably his best. And then he kind of disappeared after that. Lost momentum. There's a lot to be said for momentum. Even
though Cedric doesn't believe in it.
Well, he don't believe in it. But the fact is, if you do have momentum, he may not believe. He doesn't believe in momentum like, oh yeah, you got first at the Arnold, they're going to be looking for you right off the bat at the Olympia.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe in that momentum, but your body's momentum.
Right.
You're improving. It's almost like you're improving all the time. When you're in your 20s and you're improving, you feel like, God, if I can keep this pace up, this momentum up, in 2 years I'll be, winning shows.
Yeah. 98 Olympia he was 7th behind Cormier.
What a lineup.
Yeah. Ronnie, Wheeler, Nasser, Levrone, Sean Ray, Cormier, Lee Priest.
Listen to that. Fuchs. What did Fuchs end up?
Matarazzo was 9th, Fuchs 10th. That was, and if you listen to and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, the Jean-Pierre Fux interview, he wasn't doing, he was barely there, at that point. He wasn't, that wasn't his best, but Lee was 6th at the Olympia in 2000, and that was a good lineup too. That was Ronnie, Levrone, Wheeler, Nasser, Sean Ray, Nasser, and then Lee. So, and he beat Marcus Rule and Jay Cutler that year, and Dexter Jackson.
Yeah, he looked very good that year.
Jay was only 8th that year.
Yep, 2000.
Yeah.
99 with Fuchs. I think Fuchs was last. Jay was second to last. So Fuchs mistakenly in your interview made it sound like Jay looked like him, which was anything but the truth. Because 99 Olympia Jay was crazy. It was just his first Olympia, completely. You
think they overlooked him that year?
Oh gosh, crazy overlook. Because look at those names. Look at those top 6 you're up against. Overlooked, yes, but look at the names. You're going to be looking for those veterans.
Yeah. Think about Lee, how stupid he is. He won the Ironman in 06, and then he freaking leaves. He won the Ironman. He was 2nd at Australia. He was 6th at the Arnold. What are you, nuts? Think about what he would have done over the next 5-6 years.
2006, you mean?
2006, yeah.
Yeah.
What year did they come out with the 212? Do you remember? Was it 2010? I don't even.
9.
All right, so if 3 years later he would have been the 212 champion, or whatever it was, 202 or 210, whatever they started with. Who would have beat him then? There was no Flex Lewis then.
Well, he would have had the legs that he would have had the arms and legs that would have dominated that first year.
Yeah, would he have beat David Henry? Of course he would have.
Well, no, because 09, '09, Eduardo Correa probably should have won, and he doesn't have the legs. I mean, the physiques look different. We're not talking
Plus,
about
people loved Lee.
2016.
They loved him. They
Yeah.
They would have wanted him in there. It would have been a great title. I mean, he might not have held it for forever, but he certainly could have won it a few times.
Yeah.
And he was improving still, his physique at that point. He wasn't getting worse. He was getting better, He was still relatively young then. He was still in his 30s. So but Lee always said, I didn't give a shit about fame. I don't care about money. I just want to have enough money to pay my food bill and my gym membership, and because I love to train. So it's like a different mindset. You and I have, once again, Lee will probably live to 100 because you and I are rowing the boat way too much. Lee's he's paddling. You know what I mean? He doesn't. He's not. He's taking his time. He's not in a rush.
To each his own.
Yeah. No doubt.
You can't force people, and you can't, and people make their own decisions that make them happy. Not that, I mean, that's the problem with people sometimes want you to make a decision based on what they want for you, and not what, obviously he wants for himself. Yeah. You got to be comfortable in your decisions. It seems, I listened to the interview, it seems like he's very comfortable with, with the way, his journey from 20-year-old freak to.
Do you remember when he first came to Gold's Gym Venice? Were you out there at the time?
No, but Jay had told me. Oh, wait a minute. Who had told me? Tell me the year, and I'll tell you the impression.
I don't remember.
Because there was no internet. He had come out, and did Mania bring him out? Oh, no, Ed brought him out, and Mania ran into him in the gym. It was
like 90, right? Wasn't it in the 90s? Early 90s.
Was he 19 or 20?
He was 19, yeah.
And someone told me, if I can figure the year, I'll tell you who it was.
It was like 92 probably, or so 90. Right,
okay, it was DeMayo then. DeMayo told me, there's this freak from this little midget freak. Because Jay, you gotta get, DeMayo's humor. It's a compliment. There's a midget freak with blonde hair. He's like and I remember him telling me he's like a Tom Platz. I'm like, oh, come on, with arms.
Right.
And making me laugh. Of course, this is on the telephone, no cell phones.
Right.
DeMayo called me up and he said I saw a picture of him. I think Irv Gelb had taken a picture of him, and somehow.
Of course, Irv always got the first pictures of every guy freak there, right?
And somehow, I don't know if he overnighted him to DeMayo or.
you had to like FedEx things back then. You couldn't even there's no internet, no computers. Unbelievable. No. Yeah, Lee was a freak, and I remember Ed saw him and lost his mind.
And how did his little Blackman bromance develop?
Well, Blackman was in love with Lee Priest. Now he's the only guy legitimately at the Muscle Development headquarters that the only person who was on the wall there was Lee Priest. A big, huge. He had some kind of blow up of him there, not blow up doll, but like a poster of him, and he had him on the. It wasn't even attached to the wall, but it was leaning against the wall in the conference room there. He loved. It was like an MD cover or something like that they blew up. And Lee was his favorite. He loved Lee, but Blackman was smart because he knew that people would also love him, so he used him in that magazine. But if you listen to the interview with Lee, he got Lee in a lot of trouble because Lee didn't know what the fuck was going on in the industry. Lee wouldn't pay attention to anything. He just wanted to go work out. So Blackman would call him up once a month and go, Lee, for your column, talk about, so-and-so, this controversy. At least I don't know anything about it. He's like, this is what happened. Just write about it. Be controversial. And Lee's like a little kid. You can get him to do anything. That one kid you could always, I was like that. I would always I was an instigator, they said. I would instigate trouble. I would get other kids to do stuff that I knew because I didn't want to get in trouble. And Lee is like that. So Blackman would instigate Lee and get him all riled up. And Lee would, no one wrote their articles. They would call Ron Harris up, and Ron would just do an interview on the phone with them, and Ron would write the article from that. So Lee would just go off. He didn't even know what he was talking about. And so Ron would write it, and then Lee would get in trouble. They'd call him up, and the IFBB's pissed off at Lee, and then Blackman, they go, Lee, you shouldn't have done that. So Lee was getting thrown under the bus by Blackman, essentially, and he wasn't giving his opinion or anything. He didn't even know what was going on, So a lot of the trouble was caused by Blackman, but Blackman loved him. And I'll tell you one thing. Like I said, Blackman probably made him more popular than anyone with the magazine covers and all the coverage in there. Because remember, the internet was not big back then, so Lee made a lot of his popularity was made through the magazine.
Oh, that's right.
So it was a mutualistic relationship in the sense that he was paying Lee really well, and it was like Lee, bro, it was like his band, that was his boy there. So, but Lee made a lot of money in this sport. He could have made 10 times the money if he would have marketed himself intelligently. But he said, he didn't care. It didn't matter to him. He was just like one of these guys that just would say whatever's on his mind, and he wouldn't think of the ramifications. And he's not a businessman. That's all. If he had Jay's business savvy, he'd probably have more money than Jay, because he could own Australia. Really, I mean, if he wanted to, that's how popular he is.
He's still popular.
Yeah,
and you can get him on Iron Debate, and I'm sure he'll voice his opinions and feelings as aggressively as as anyone.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a good talent to have in the stable, so to speak. But yeah, I'm glad that he wants to come back, because he really did make a big impact on the industry, and I think that people really want to know his opinions, and they value his opinions. So if I can get him on a couple Iron Debates, that'll be great. I'm sure now that I interviewed him, everyone's going to want to interview him. Everyone's Blackman is probably calling Ron Harris. Ron, call up. Get Lee Priest. Dave's got Lee Priest. Get Lee Priest on the show.
Well, he only threw 2 people under the bus. He threw on that interview Blackman and Sean Ray.
That's true. Yeah, he hates Sean Ray. Oh. We could do a whole show on that about Sean Ray, because I didn't want to I wasn't looking for him to just bash people. I wanted to just get his opinions on base. He brought Sean Ray up. I know he doesn't like Sean Ray at all, but I would have loved to have seen them, both in their prime, head to head. I mean, they have competed against each other, obviously, and Sean always beat him, I think. But they matched up well, because they're both the same height, even though Sean says he's taller than Lee.
No,
I don't know if that's true or not.
I mean, but what were we talking, 6 feet or something? I mean,
yeah.
We're talking about hair, right?
Yeah, what is it like? It's like 5'2" to 5'3" or something like that, or 5'3" to 5'4".
22-inch bicep with the peak versus a 23-inch bicep with the long head.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the difference?
The reason Sean would beat Lee is not that he was necessarily better; he was always in better condition than Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, he had glutes and hamstrings, and Lee just
before people got glutes and hams.
Yeah, Lee just had problems back there.
No, everyone acknowledges. Lee did too. That Sean Ray's a tremendous bodybuilder.
Yeah. He's in Hawaii this weekend.
Well, the problem with that is he's no longer a bodybuilder, and so people's opinion of him is twofold: Sean the bodybuilder and Sean the person. They're diametrically opposed.
Yeah. Sean's he's in Maui this past weekend. I'll give him one thing: the guy gets more gigs and makes more money from this industry than anyone else. He knows how to extract cash from the bodybuilding world, or as he calls it, the business of bodybuilding, better than anyone else. I'll give him that much. He's gotten money from if you notice, every major show, anyway, you see Sean Ray there. He got Beta Badai paying him. He remember the Jarka, he had her paying him from the Masters thing, even though he didn't compete. He's always got his hand in the till, so to speak. So good for him. He's making money. Everyone's going to make money. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about some of the other coverage that we had this past weekend. The J.P. Fux interview, which was very popular, among a few others. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll also do some Ask the Technician questions, because a lot of people have been submitting, and I haven't read them the past few weeks. So, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent pending andro compounds. The most effective, hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. Iron Mag Labs. Revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. no soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations.
Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo talking with the technician, Chris Aceto. And Chris, we were just talking about Lee Priest, the Lee Priest interview. That was stellar. I guess it was received very well, put it that way. And it should be, because people haven't really heard from Lee, officially in the last 10 years. I hadn't interviewed him. He remembered the last time I interviewed him was 10 years ago. And I saw him in 2012, believe it or not. I saw him listen to this, of all places. I think I might have told this story, but I was doing a tour of Australia after the Australian Grand Prix, which that used to turn into the Arnold. But I was visiting all my retailers all over the country. Within 7 days, I went to like freaking 10 places from coast to coast. And I was in Sydney, the last place, and we drove like 2 hours to Lakeland. I think it was called Lakeland, Australia. And I was in this gym. I walk into this gym, and it almost looked like a YMCA from the outside, but it was a pretty good gym. They had pretty good equipment in there. So I was going to do a seminar there. So Aaron and I got there early because we wanted to work out first. And who's in the gym working out? Lee Priest. I mean, think about it. How many thousands of miles did I travel to Australia? Drove 2 hours into the blindness. I didn't know where the fuck I was. I walk into a gym and Lee Priest is in the gym, and that's his freaking home gym of all places. So, of course, I wanted to talk to him, but at the time, Aaron was pissed off at him because he felt that he made a statement about his unborn child. Like, he thought Lee said that he wished death on his unborn child. So, I'm really tight with Aaron, so I'm like, I'm not going to say a word to Lee Priest because Aaron wants to fight this guy. And I'm like, he's like, you keep an eye on me. He goes, if this fucker comes near me, I'm going to give you my glasses, because Aaron wears glasses, and I'm going to beat him up. I said, all right, fine. I said, so I couldn't say a word to Lee, and I wanted to because I knew Lee and I was friendly with him. So Lee and I kind of gave each other the like, hey, what's up, eyes, and that was it. And so nothing happened because Lee didn't say anything to Aaron. Aaron didn't say anything to Lee. I said, go talk to Lee. Why don't you just work this out? I said, I'm not talking to him. He goes, if he says something to me, I'm going to punch him. I said, all right, fine. So no one talked to anyone. And Lee left the gym after his workout, and I did my seminar. But Aaron felt that if he fought the guy in his gym, obviously we'd get kicked out of there, and I wouldn't do the seminar. So we didn't want that to happen. So, but Lee remembers it. He distinctly remembers the situation. I guess it was so weird that I walked into his gym because he probably doesn't see anyone in that gym. It's kind of like a very low key atmosphere there. But it was funny. It was funny. It was funny because, like I said, it was unexpected. The last person I expected to see was Lee Priest there, but it happened. All right, let's see what else I want to mention here. So we had the Lee. And so I gave my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course last weekend, the weekend before, and Jean-Pierre Fux took the course. He came down with a friend of mine. He came down with another guy who I was friends with and who actually took my course already, and he was going to retake it just for purposes of like reinforcing his head. And he said, no, I'm going to come down. I'm going to bring J.P. Fux. I said, all right, fine. So Jean-Pierre and I were kind of like texting. We had never really officially met and talked and anything like that. Matter of fact, the last time I saw him, he barely spoke English. His English is amazing now. I mean, he lives in California. But he took the course, and I said, why don't you're not leaving till Monday. I said, how about you come back tomorrow? And I said, we'll do a live with interview, because a lot of people, myself included, would love to know, how you got the whole bodybuilding. I don't know anything about you. I said, other than the fact that I saw the crazy pictures of you and Nasser, that everyone remembers that photo shoot with him and Nasser. They both were like enormous. He was actually bigger than Nasser, I think, in that photo shoot. And at one point, people were saying this guy's going to win the Olympia, if you remember. Remember?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember the first, like I said last week, the first Arnold he did. he just dwarfed the field. It was. I think it was that crazy Arnold when Levrone won, and Flex Wheeler got second. Dillette was in it, and Sean Ray was.
That was 96, right?
Yeah, and I think Vince Taylor was in it. I mean, another stellar lineup, and I think Fuchs came in right after those guys. But I mean, he dwarfed Wheeler. He was like a Dillette, but crazier looking with the back.
Yeah,
and he was in good shape. He was in good shape. I think the last 3 days sodium screwed him up.
Yeah, well, he
kept on saying that in a live interview.
Yeah, he didn't know. He kept depleting sodium for 3 days, and it would flatten him out. It would, it goes back to the old. Don't do anything fucking kooky the last fucking week. I tell people all the time. Someone sent me this thing for some product. They said it's like a vasodilator. Should I take it? I'm like, why? You don't take it now. I said, why would you take it the day of the show and risk it fucking you up?
Yeah.
Don't do kooky fucking shit. That's the bottom line before a show. And Jean-Pierre, every single time, 3 days before, stop his sodium, and it would flatten him out every time. You know what the funny thing is? Roman Fritz texted me when he heard the interview, and he said, we still do that in Germany. I still do it. I said, well, that's why you get flat, too. I said, did I ever tell you to stop your sodium 3 days out? He goes, everyone does it in Germany. We don't
Some people can cut their sodium and look 1,000 times better.
Yeah,
some people can cut their sodium and look 1,000 times better. Like, I've seen people cut their sodium and stuff that I thought was body fat turns into rip.
That's
I'm serious.
Genetic freaks.
But other people, they cut their sodium and it's just like, it doesn't work.
No, you can't. Because when you combine it with diuretics, it's just too much. It pulls too much salt and water, and you get super flat. But yeah, when Wheeler won in '98, that's when Fuchs was fourth, and a lot of people thought he should have been higher that year. If you remember, it was Wheeler he beat Nasser, and Vince Taylor was third, and then Fuchs, and then Cormier was fifth. Darren Charles sixth. It was a good show, and I think Fuchs people didn't really expect him, and he probably could have been a little higher, but he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was just one of these guys who loved bodybuilding and just fucking gave 100% to everything he did. He just would screw himself up because of that,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if you listen to the interview, and people love this interview, and the interview was
I loved it.
I loved
it. Very personal guy.
People kept telling him. Joe Weider told him, hire a guru, hire Chad Nichols. Kept telling him, and he's like, I don't want to. And he kept saying, I don't need to work with this guy. He was like, why should I pay him? Whatever he was charging. Meanwhile, he probably needed him more than anyone, or either him or you. You guys were the only two gurus back then, really. Right?
It's
you would have definitely worked with him. You would have loved. I'm surprised Ed Connors didn't send him over to you.
Yeah. If Ed knew him, it's weird, right?
He was living in Ed's house. Actually, I remember because Matt Duvall, who I was very friends with back in the '90s, he told me that he saw this guy, the Swiss bodybuilder Jean-Pierre Fux, in Ed's house. He's like, he was huge. He goes, I wanted to ask him what he was doing, but he couldn't speak a freaking word of English. It was impossible to communicate with him. I remember him telling me that. And he was wet behind the ears, as we say, like we said earlier in the show.
How did Ed communicate with him?
Who knows? Ed probably had a freaking translator or something like that. I don't know.
You know what's so funny, though?
Ed probably had another, because I think he spoke German, because everyone speaks German in the part of Switzerland he was from. Ed guaranteed had another pro bodybuilder, like probably who stayed with him, who was German speaking, and then that's who could translate for Ed.
You know what's crazy though? There was so many good parts of that interview because he's such a likable guy and he's funny, but there was the parts where like Joe Weider would interject himself into his career,
right?
And people don't realize that Joe did that with a lot of people. Come on, encourage, like, call people. And people would be like, I'm sure Fuchs would be like, holy, Weider calling me for what?
Yeah, well, Weider gave him a 4-year contract.
Special invite and the special
invite
to the Olympia. It was like, it's my show, you're doing it.
Yeah. And think about it. 4-year contract, and then they gave him another 2 years. He told me he was making the same money, as Dorian. Except Dorian was getting the, I guess if you won the Olympia, you got a $100,000 bonus from Weider, which I didn't know that. That's really pretty fucking cool, But he said, other than that, I think he was making $84,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Think about
what
that.
year was that?
He didn't
96?
even.
Good money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money back then. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, 2006. That's what I mean.
Plus, he was doing. He told me he was doing guest postings every weekend for $3,000. all over the freaking place. He had like 20 a year. He said 25 a year. He was doing. He goes every freaking day. He was on a plane.
Yeah. Plus, those guys could sell picture. I mean, pictures.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous, but picture sales in those days, people would make a killing selling 8
Huge.
by 10 photos.
$10 a photo. These guys would sell. A couple hundred pictures.
Do you know who Lacey Rich is? I can't remember any names. But
No.
You don't know?
No.
There's probably some people been around bodybuilding. Ted Dixon friend.
Don't
He used
remember.
to print the 8 by 10 photo.
Oh, he was the picture guy? So who is this guy now, Chris? Ted Dixon's friend?
Lacey Rich was a guy who lived in Hollywood who had like a photo studio in his house.
Mm-hmm.
And he would make all the 8 by 10 photos for people, and he'd charge people would sell the photos for $10 and then get them from him for like 90 cents.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it cost him to print them, but he would make these nice high gloss 8 by 10 photos, and you'd go to his house, and the who's who of bodybuilding would be coming out of the driveway because they'd have to go to him to get the pictures.
That's funny. Yeah, people don't realize it was a pain in the ass to get pictures made. There was no internet where you can just go on there and order your freaking 8 by 10s. You had to go someplace. I remember I used to
know someone, so everyone in LA knew him, and he was he would trap you and tell you like 10,000 stories, and you'd be like, just give me the photos.
There was a place, Northeast Photo. Everyone in New York used Northeast Photo in the city, and it was owned by this Israeli guy. I think his name was. I can't even believe you're bringing back memories that I didn't even have until you brought this up. I can't even believe I know the name of the place. I'd have to take the train in. I would take the Long Island Railroad into the city. I'd bring my pictures that I wanted to have copied, and he would mark them up how he wanted them, where I wanted my name and everything like that. And then I'd have to wait whatever how many weeks it was to make the pictures, and then he would mail them to me. Sometimes I would actually go back into the city and pick them up because pictures were valuable then, and it was a real pain in the ass. When I think about what these guys go do today, if you want to get some pictures, you go on the internet and you go onto one of these websites, you upload your picture. You can design it right there if you want, and you have it in freaking 2 days. It was crazy.
Yeah, but
we
nobody
went there.
buy it like 10 for $10. Back in the day. I remember Bob Parris told me, I can't even remember, Dave, he made in FIBO some bizarre number. I'm talking he's like $30,000 worth of photos he sold in 2.5 days.
Wow. Yeah, no, people used to sell a lot of pictures. People used to go to the...
So much so that somebody FedExed him. You know how much it cost to FedEx in those days? Somebody FedExed him extra photos from his house.
Wow. Yeah, I remember...
You got to get him on live, by the way.
Who?
Bob Parris.
Oh, but do you still have contact with him?
I can find it. You got to be able to get him on and talk about classic physique, and the whole...
You still have your...
what's considered classic to him.
Still have your old black book with all your phone numbers in it?
I do have my black book. I never throw it out. It's ridiculous if it leaves in there. Fux. I was good into it.
Yeah, he, not only did he tell us what was going on and behind the scenes. See, I told him, I said, look, I knew the story from what I read in the magazines. I knew nothing else about what really happened that day when you tore both quads at that photo shoot with Chris Lund. And when he told the story, I was flabbergasted because most people thought, well, what's his name? Chris Lund was making Fux squat like a couple weeks before whatever show he was getting ready for, a ridiculous amount of weight that he couldn't handle. But that wasn't the case. The case was that Fux handled 700 pounds on the squat very easily. He used to train with it all the time. Matter of fact, he trained with it a week before the show. So after the show was over, or whatever it was, I think this was right before the show, Fux came into the gym, and Lund's like, I want you to do a crazy amount of weight because it's going to look great on film. So Fuchs like, fine, I can do 7 plates. He's like, okay. They go through the workout. Fuchs squatted 7 plates, how many times Chris Lund needed him to. Got the pictures. They finished the photo shoot. Fuchs packed up his stuff and was leaving the gym. And Lund comes running after him and says, wait a minute. Come back. I have an idea. I want to light this differently. I want to shoot it from a different angle. So Fuchs, being a nice guy, most guys, if it was Dexter, he would have been fucking later, buddy, and he would have been out the door. So Fuchs is exhausted. He's tired. He's now cold. He's cool. He's cooled down. He's not warmed up. And they put 7 plates on the bar, and he gets under it like a dummy, all cold. He said, I just felt weak. When that weight came off, he goes, I felt like it weighed 1,000,000 pounds. Of course it did, because he was exhausted from the workout. Plus, he was cold. His muscles weren't warmed up anymore.
Well, wait. Go back. A Chris Lund photo shoot was the torture session.
Yeah, it was it wasn't as bad as Pear Bernal's shoots, but Pear didn't make you lift, super crazy heavy weights either, So Lund gets him back there under the bar, and he goes down with the weight, and he says, I immediately feel my right quad just rupture, snap. He goes, which is not a big deal. He goes, because I figure, well, all right, I'll get the weight up, but then I guess all the weight transfers to the other quad, and it's a lot of weight. 700 pounds is a lot of weight. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever tried it. It's not a comfortable thing to go down with to begin with. You can't one-legged squat this thing, and then the other leg just twists. He says, like torques, and it just explodes. Like everything just blows apart, all the tendons and everything, whatever's in there, all the ligaments. And he just crumbles to the ground, basically, with the weight. I mean, you can see the pictures. It's brutal. It's one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. And Chris Lund didn't stop for a second, believe me, to help him. Not that he could have. He just snapped away, because he knew the pictures would be freaking phenomenal. And the thing that I was the most amazed about is that Jean-Pierre Fux said that it was the best thing that ever happened. When he was laying there on the ground, he said, thank God it happened. And I said, what are you, nuts? He's like, I was burnt. I had enough. He hadn't stopped dieting, and it wasn't fun for him anymore, and he knew he would never get out of it. And this got him out of it, in his mind. At least it was going to get him out of it. He was done. The thing that sucked him back in is that Weider gave him another 2-year contract for $84,000 a year, and he couldn't say no, and that's why he made that comeback. He said, otherwise I never would have made the comeback. And obviously his legs were not what they were, before. But it is what it is. And he said it saved his life, really. He said, because he felt that he would have probably wound up like Nasser or, dead probably. He said, because, he was pushing the envelope and he just didn't feel right. It didn't feel healthy. And he was over 300 pounds, for, he was almost 300 pounds on stage. So the guy was probably 320, 330, in the off season. And he felt it put a tremendous strain on him. So, and he's, right now he's a happy dude. He's rescues cats. He's a cat rescue guy. I don't know. It kind of doesn't fit him. I guess a lot of people never thought I was a cat breeder too in the 90s. I didn't rescue cats. I bred cats. So, but he's a.
But he rescues cats. Like, is that a business or?
No, I don't. He just does it voluntarily. He traps like feral wild cats and he gets them. If they're injured and stuff like that, and he nurses them back to health. And if they have kittens, he'll spay them afterwards. And he has like a whole cat shelter at his place. And because he was thinking about moving to Florida, he told me, and he's like, I don't know how I get all my cats down there. I said, well, I got 150 snakes from New York to California, from Florida.
You lost two. You lost 2 along the way.
Exactly. They made it down there somehow. I said, you got to get a big truck, I guess. I don't know. And so
only you, Dave. You can coach him on how to get the cats.
Yeah. Can you imagine if I go up there, fly to California? I'll say, man, I got to fly to California because I got to drive with.
You're gonna have to, and you're gonna video it, and you're gonna do a whole series.
I got to drive with Jean-Pierre Fux down from California to Florida with the fucking.
He's got 150 cats in the U-Haul.
Yeah. My a friend of mine who he had to bring like 800 snakes from Phoenix, Arizona to Florida. He got pulled over in Texas. They thought he was like they thought he had like people in the back, like Mexicans in the back, because he had an air condition. Because he was running a generator on the outside of the truck with an air conditioning unit in the window of the truck. So that he's like, they definitely thought he had people in there, So I thought it was funny. They pulled him over. When he told them what was back there, and they took a peek, they're like, "That's all right, you can go. We don't want to stop you." Imagine Ronnie Coleman pulling him over in Texas, like, and because he had this truck with an air conditioning unit hanging out of the back. Ronnie's seen the snakes. That would be great. Ronnie would do a photo shoot. He'd be like, "Wait a minute, I got to call someone. We're going to do a photo shoot. I'm going to hit a couple bicep shots with these snakes." So yeah, it's a Jean-Pierre, good interview. If you guys haven't listened to it, listen. A lot of people told me they liked it, like I said, better than the Lee Priest one. But we got very good feedback on the Lee Priest one too. So I can't say anything bad about that one either. I enjoyed both of them thoroughly, and the Jean-Pierre one was completely by surprise. He just happened to be in my wheel well, so to speak.
Well, too, the Jean-Pierre one, he's there. In person,
studio,
so the camera's wider, and you get, his, you get a very clear indication of his body language as well. So, he's not only speaking, but you can only get so much on Skype.
Yep, you're right. And then I interviewed Gerald Williams, also who won the Cal Pro. I've known him since he was a teenager when he won Teen Nationals, and he's a good dude. He's like a real businessman. He's like Jay. He's got like six different jobs he's doing. He's got a big degree, a master's degree, and he's a very diversified bodybuilder. I like the fact that he is. I think he's got potential. I think he's still improving. I think every year he gets better, and he won a show. He's going to the Olympia this year. He's doing this the show this coming weekend, which we're going to talk about. We might as well talk about it now. But we got it's Chad Nichols' show, the Muscle Mayhem, which started out, I think, as a Bikini Pro show and an NPC show. Now he's got Men's Open coming up this weekend, and that's it should be exciting because a lot of guys are jumping into this. A lot of people weren't thinking anything about it, Chris, and now all of a sudden, like everyone's doing they call it the Kansas City show, but it's the Chad Nichols Muscle Mayhem show. And I don't know, who do you think we might see some surprises there?
Well, he's got Victor competing,
right?
He's got Gerald Williams competing.
Yeah.
He's got a couple other big names. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
well, a lot of guys are going in there trying to qualify, for the Olympia, I guess. A lot of guys who didn't make it. Is Sass doing the show?
No, he's not doing the show. Johnny Jackson's doing the show.
Oh, he is again. So Johnny's going crazy. Johnny's just saying, "Fuck it, I'm just going to do every show now that I'm winning."
Kevin Jordan's doing the show.
Oh, well, that'll be interesting to see how Kevin's been improving every single year, and we've seen him.
Yeah.
That'll be anyone else you're helping doing that show?
Eddie Bracamontes is doing that show.
Oh, good. Okay, that'll be a good lineup then. They're going to get a really good lineup. I wonder if Hakeem Williams will do the show. I haven't heard anything from him since New York. Be interesting to see who shows up at this show at the last minute, because a lot of guys are in shape right now. And now with the cancellation, Chris, of the Arnold Asia, that's big news.
Yeah, that's a big news. We didn't talk about that. What do you think of that?
It's not good. Well, I heard last year that the turnout or whatever wasn't that great for it. So it's always.
What do you mean the turnout? The attendance?
Yeah, I don't think they made a lot of money at the show. I think they might have lost money at the show, which usually happens for a first year show. I mean, you don't usually make money, but.
Well, I don't know. The Arnold you would expect, right?
But you know what? It's when you do something in like China, it was done in Hong Kong. But when you do something in Asia, they have different fans and different wants, and it's hard to sometimes capture, what a population of people want or like. Yeah. So I think they want to spend another year. They're not getting rid of the show. They're just postponing. They're not doing it this year, and they're going to spend another year on doing some more, I guess, as Blackman would say, due diligence, and figure out what's going to make that show work. Because every corner of the globe has different interests, like we said, and you have to find out what works for them. And what works in Brazil might not work in Europe, and what works in Europe might not work in the U.S. And so you have to kind of feel out your marketplace there and get the right sponsors. I would think that they probably have more mainstream sponsors that might be interested in bodybuilding there, because they love big freaky guys. It's like the monsters. It's like Godzilla. I call it the Godzilla effect. They love the Godzillas in Asia over there. I actually think that they should hold it in Macau, believe it or not, which is like a boat ride away from Hong Kong.
Yeah, you love it there.
Yeah, I think they got casinos there. I mean, don't you think that would be more popular? Hold it in a casino, like a real fancy, it's like mini Vegas in Macau, and there's no laws or anything like that. You can do whatever you want there. People would love it. I think that's where they should move it. But maybe I'll send Tony Doherty a message. Maybe he'll give him an idea. I'm sure they got something they're gonna come up with something on this one, because they're not gonna let that show die. Because I think that's a huge marketplace. I think they just have to learn how to reap the benefits of it, the right way. Should I give us our next quote of the week? I have two this week. So.
Yeah, because I like the first one so
okay.
well. Much. I actually understood it.
There are only two mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. Isn't that the truth? A lot of people don't go all the way, but a lot of people we know, Chris, don't even start. And that's worse, I think.
Well, is it worse? I mean, I guess, you know what I mean?
Well,
there's no risk. There's no risk in not starting.
Right, but there's no benefit
So
either.
people feel comfortable. Well,
Yeah.
people feel comfortable and they don't even know unless that they know that they could have, they could have started.
Well, yeah, I see a lot of people who just have all these great ideas and they never do anything about it, or they're afraid to do something. They're afraid to just take the plunge. And then I have other guys who I have people, Chris, and I'm sure you do too, who contact me, Dave, I want to hire you because I want to learn everything there is about coaching. I mean, about nutrition and steroids and whatever, supplements, because I left my job. I was making six figures as an accountant. I was making six figures as a lawyer, and I hated my fucking job. I want to become a trainer. I want to be involved in the bodybuilding industry in some way. I want to make money from that because that's my passion. That to me is like, whoa. You got to have one set of balls to fucking drop 150 grand, 200 grand a year salary because you hate it and you know that it's going to fucking shorten your life. I mean, that takes balls. If I was a doctor, working as a doctor, I think I would have had a much tougher time leaving the profession than I did leaving medical school. That's why I stopped in medical school, because I said, you know what? I could finish if I want, but if I finish and become a doctor, there's no way I'm stopping then, because then I'm going to be like, this is too easy. Then I want to reap the rewards of it, and I would get sucked into the whole thing. So that's why I left before. But if I was a doctor, I take my hat off to people when they do that. But that's how you find what you truly love. That's the road to truth, That's the road to satisfaction. That's the road to pleasure. That's the road to your passions. That's the road to enjoying life. Do what you like. You love selling and buying real estate. I mean, and that's what you do. And bodybuilding's your hobby essentially, and you make money from that too because you love it so much. So, I mean, who's better off than you are?
Listen, Dave, I'm in Atlanta. I'm at a family reunion. I met someone yesterday that I've heard about. She has 12 kids.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Her
husband just died. That's what I said.
She must love kids.
What? You know what they had for a vehicle? Because I always heard, I never met her. They had a school bus. With the 12 kids.
That's great. Speaking of school, what do you have? Oh, you have a truck.
Minivan.
You have a mini.
Yeah,
what minivan do you have?
No, in Atlanta right now I have a minivan. I have a Highlander right now.
Oh, how many rows is that cut?
It's like tight. You can fit 6 people, but it's tight.
Oh, you need
I don't like it. I miss my Navigator, but I was too cheap to buy a new one.
Do you know that I have to admit this. It's I'm trembling telling you this, but my car lease is up in 8 months.
Yeah.
But Amanda's is up. Her little X3 we have that we use right now for the big. Hers is up in a year and a half.
Yes.
So we're having a new baby in December, and my children cannot sit in the back seat alone. Do you know that? My son cannot. I have to sit back there with him. So when Amanda we get in the X3. He's in the car seat in the back, and I sit next to him. And that's...
What do you mean? What? Is that a state law?
No, he just doesn't travel well. He'll cry the whole time.
Okay. I thought it was a law.
No, he's trained us so that I have to sit in the back seat with him. So she drives like driving Miss Daisy, and I sit in the back seat with Logan. And as long as he sees me there, I don't usually have to entertain him anymore. When he was a baby, I had to entertain him. He just wants me there. Yeah. And he's okay. So... Now, with the new baby, we're going to have 2 car seats in the back. So I won't fit in the middle of the X3. It's not big enough, okay? Because I got to sit in the middle then because it's crazy. So we went looking yesterday for a new vehicle. So I will have to give up my Mercedes E63 AMG with almost 600 horsepower, unfortunately. So I have to give up, Chris, my AMG E63 Mercedes-Benz with almost 600 horsepower, 4-door sedan. It's my dream car because it's big and it's fast. I love it. I got to give it up because I'm sacrificing for my family, and it doesn't bother me, but a little bit maybe. So we go to Mercedes and we look at the whatever they call it, the GLE. It's like their SUV there. Because if you have a Mercedes and you go into another lease, it's cheaper because they give you back, they bribe you basically, and they'll take your car back early. So we went there, we were looking at that, but to be honest with you, it wasn't. It was good. It was nice. I liked it. Believe me, I would have gotten it. But my wife's like, "Well, there's not really enough room here. You're not going to be able to sit in the middle. It's I don't know."
You just want to get it at least that day. You don't want to put too much mental effort into it.
No, I didn't even need to get it this. We wanted to we were doing our diligence. Okay, we were trying to figure out what's best. So we said, okay, this is a possibility. So I went to next door to BMW. And they wanted more money actually per month than Mercedes, which was insane. And their X3 and their X5, which is the bigger one, is not that big. It's smaller than the Mercedes. So we're like, okay, right now we're sticking with the Mercedes, which I was fine with because I'm like, you know what, it's a nice car, it drives well. Then the guy at Mercedes actually said, you should go to Honda. I used to work at Honda. Check out the Honda Odyssey Elite, whatever. They got like some special one. So I go into Honda. I don't like Hondas, and I don't because I'm an elitist now. Now I'm driving German cars. I don't want to go backwards anymore. So going to Honda, and the guy who's the finance manager there comes up to Amanda. He went to school with her or something like that. He recognizes us. So they were chatting, and in the middle of a Honda dealer, they have like this Honda Odyssey, like that you can go in and touch and go. Like there's kids in there and shit like that. It looks like a rent-a-car. It's got that material. I'm like ready to throw up. I'm like, let's just leave at this point.
Cloth.
Yeah, it's cloth. Material. It was disgusting. I was like, I can't drive this. There's no way I'm driving this minivan. I said. So we're talking to her friend, the finance manager, and we're like, isn't there like one with leather seats? That you guys have? I'm thinking there's got to be a higher end one than this, right? So he's like, oh yeah, we have. So we went out and. He took us and showed us like the top. I'm like, just show me the top of the line one. I don't even want to know what it costs. It's got to be less than a Mercedes, right? So show me the top of the line one. It's all leathered out. It's 3 rows. It's this and this and that. My wife falls in love with it. She's like, this is what I want. I said, and I'm not against it. I wasn't against it because it is it's more practical than the Mercedes. It's not nicer than the Mercedes. Okay, my wife doesn't care. She'll drive it, and it doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter to her. She's not like. Status driven. She's driven for practicality, which is a very good thing about her. I respect that and love that about her. But I wanted to have something. If we're gonna have something to drive around, I want it to be nice and comfortable. So I'm like, well, this is not bad. It's actually pretty big. It's got a lot of functionality. It's the one that's the top of the line comes with DVD players in it and screens for the kids to watch. Not that my kids can watch anything yet. That my son's one of them's not born, and my son is too young. But that's what she wants. So. Luckily my lease is not up till January, so we won't be able to buy it till January. But I'm going to be a minivan dad. Can you believe it?
No!
By the beginning of 2018, I will be a
Next, you're going to be wearing a robe around the house with slippers.
Yeah. So anyway, so she gets the minivan, and I get the X3 to drive around in as my car. Which is not bad. It's not as good as my car, but it's still acceptable, and I still get to drive the German car. I'm happy with that. And then when the lease is up on that, I can get what I want. But it always goes back to the sacrifices we make for our family, right?
Okay, well, piggybacking on that quote, the lady the cousin who I met at the family reunion, who had the 12 kids, I said 12. Where's that come from? She said, when I was a little girl, my dream was always to have 12 kids to be a medical doctor.
Wow.
And I said, good, Dave, quote, good
she's
for
a doctor?
You accomplished. No, good for you. Her dream when she was little was to have 12 kids
right.
or be a medical doctor.
Or I didn't hear I heard it. I thought it was and. Okay.
So I said, I gave her the nicety, oh, good for you. You accomplished one. She says, no, I start medical school in the fall. She's
what?
60. She's 60. Her kids are all grown up, so she's starting medical school.
She'll never become a doctor. I hate to say never, but that's tough. I'll tell you one thing. When I was in medical school, in my early 20s, obviously, there was a couple guys that went back to school like at 40. They were like 40, 41, and they started medical school because that was always their dream to be a doctor. And they were smart dudes in their own right. Couldn't handle it. Too much material to learn. It was just like your brain just can't process like that. you know, when you're
At
older.
that age, yeah.
And this woman's 60. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I think I would have problems. Well, maybe not me because I'm a nut. I'm still pretty sharp, but I think I would have problems going back to medical school now and reabsorbing all that information. And I already learned it, so you become. It's a different mindset. But I guess if you want to do something enough, I guess you could do anything. But these people really studied hard. They would study all day long. These guys, and they just couldn't get it. It was just not natural to them, you know, at that age. You know, when you're young, your brain has pliability, flexibility. It can assimilate anything. You know, it's like you're an empty vessel just being filled up. And I don't know. I think at some point, the cap to the bottle gets put on, and things don't get assimilated as easily anymore. That's why they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that should be the quote of the
Yeah.
that could be the quote of the week sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for me to, you know, if I have instructions to do something, I have to write the stuff down, and then I'll just give it to someone else and say, here, you do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Delegate.
Yeah, that's my new theory too. My new mantra to delegate. I don't want to do anything. It's not that I can't paint the wall. It's not that I can't fix the garage door. It's not that I can't, you know, put a new lock on something. It's a waste of my time. I'd rather pay the money to do it because I can be making more money doing something else with that time. That's the way I see things now. Get a what is the book that I never haven't finished reading? You probably like this book. It's called Get a.
No, you can't go back to medical school. You can't remember the book, let alone. How are you going to process that?
Create a business, not a job, or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember the name of it, but it talks about. In other words, build a business. Don't build another job for yourself. You know, delegate.
Yeah,
it's all about delegating. Yeah. That's the person believes. All right, let's do some Ask the Technician questions because I got a lot of them. People are mad that we're not doing them. All right. Let's see if I did this one. Please ask the technician if it's okay to take calcium-based antacids like Tums in order to get one's calcium requirements for the day.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's what is calcium citrate? Isn't it? Dave, help me out. That's in.
It's
Tums.
calcium carbonate.
Calcium
It's calcium carbonate. I think it's like chalk, basically.
Oh, calcium carbonate is calcium carbonate's not as absorbable as like citrate, right?
Yeah, It's the calcium citrate is not in Tums. It's much more absorbable.
I mean, it's not. It's I guess it's better than nothing. But I would go with calcium citrate for sure.
Yeah, chelated forms of calcium are the most absorbable, just for people who are wondering. All right. P.S. Also, Flex Wheeler is going to be surprised at the Physique Olympia like Big Lou was years ago at the Masters Olympia. Robbie Robinson is going to swoop down from the mountaintop and take the title. But seriously, there are some guys that probably could, like Labrada or even Milos. Do you agree with that?
That Milos Labrada could come back?
Yeah. Successfully.
No. I think that when your body, no matter who you are, reaches 50 years old, your shape just changes. You may still look good, but you don't have the crazy wasp V-taper that you had when you were in your 20s and 30s. Even if you never had the gut in bodybuilding.
Yeah. And
your muscle does not look as fresh. So, that's why comebacks are so challenging for people. Once age has set in any respect, when you get under those lights, it shows. It's like a high definition TV. When you see these people on high def TV that I finally got after 20 years, Dave, and you see Anderson Cooper, and it's like, holy smokes, look at those wrinkles, right?
Yeah, right.
It's the age shows up under the high definition TV, and it shows up under the oil and lights of an IFBB stage. Yeah,
you're right. Chris, what's the best bodybuilding show you've ever been to and why?
Well, I don't even know, but recently I went to the Mr. Olympia Europe, the one that they had in Germany that my arch nemesis Dexter won his 400th show.
Yeah.
And that show was completely sold out. It was probably 12 competitors. That's it. It was a good lineup, great lineup. Had a lot of good bodybuilders in it. And what made it great and memorable was the audience was absolutely ridiculously involved. You know, Lionel Baiki came out and did his mandatories, and I think he was competitor number 1. And I'm like, what is he winning the show or something? Is he look this good? The crowd went nuts from beginning to end. And then the next guy came out, someone who I don't even know, and they were equally as crazy for him. And they went nuts during the comparisons. And I had always heard of German crowds, German bodybuilding crowds being the best bodybuilding crowd. I heard that like from way back when they had the FIBO shows back in the olden days when Vince Taylor was competing.
Right.
And I'd never been to any. And I told Robin Chang, I said, why don't you just pay for this crowd to come to the Olympia in Vegas next year?
Yeah, I'm sure you would love that.
I mean, because it's not an exaggeration. It was like being at a rock concert.
We love those. We love rock concerts.
Yeah, that's 2016. That's just a few months ago.
Yeah. No, that's awesome when you get a crowd like that.
The interesting thing about that show, Dave, you know what was also interesting about that show?
What?
What was different about that show is that there were like 13 guys, and the entire prejudging lasted 45 minutes. So it was like in the olden days.
Oh, it was enjoyable.
The end prejudging, good night.
Yeah,
like,
great.
God, we can go eat lunch, dinner, take a nap, take a shower. Now it's like, I mean, it's great for, competitors who get on stage and blah, 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 and, the sport and, the promoters. But you go to a professional show with all the divisions, and it's like, it feels like it's a 5-day event because you get there at 9 and you leave at midnight 2 days in a row. Yeah. There's no sporting event on earth that you go to. What sporting event you go to that's a complete, full, all day?
The Super Bowl doesn't last that long.
A marathon is only 3 hours.
I know.
The slowest people finish it in 4.
Yeah. All right. Dear Chris, I recently purchased and read your Championship Bodybuilding book. It's a great book, and it really helped me to simplify my diet and to better understand it. Chris, do you still work by these principles written in the book? And would you consider yourself a low-fat guy when you're making diets for clients?
More or less, I follow still those, that's the blueprint, or the pattern, the way my brain works. And I believe in low-fat unless it doesn't work, which is just like me. I believe in cutting sodium unless it doesn't work for someone 3 days before a show. Yeah. I mean, I might not cut it to 0, but I've seen it work. But on a lot of people, it doesn't work. So, the thing with anything is you have to have flexibility in your approach. Absolutely. Go watch. I know nothing about baseball other than my kids play it from time to time, and you'll watch 5 different kids with 5 different batting styles all hit home runs.
Yep.
You know what I mean? One holds a bat, and one holds a bat with, quote, completely wrong from the textbook way to hold it, versus another guy who holds a bat a different way, and you can see that in professional baseball too, in Major League Baseball, that people have different pitching styles, people have different ways they hit, and there's not necessarily a right way and a wrong way. You have to be able to, start somewhere and including, let's say, I believe in low fat, but tweak it whether it's working or not. I think low fat for a long period of time can be detrimental, just like low carbs for a long period of time can be detrimental. But some people can do low carbs 9 straight weeks. It's like, well, that was easy. Right. You know what I mean?
A lot of people also get fat sources from their protein sources. I'm sure if you recommend red meat or salmon, you're getting fat from there. You can't take that away. And everyone, like I said, I always tell people when I teach my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, I'm like, there's no rules because everyone's body's a little different. I mean, I can give you the patterns of how people work, but there's a lot of genetic freaks in bodybuilding that don't adhere to the rules, and that's your job as an investigator. Right? You're almost like a private investigator. You have to figure out what works for this person, and once you get it nailed down, then you can work with them over and over again because you know exactly what to do for them. All right. Here's our friend Derek, who bought you the earphones.
Yep.
He likes to ask a lot
He sent
of
me a book,
questions.
How to Live to 100, I think.
I never sent you the book, How Not to Die, because I've been reading it too much.
How Not to Die.
Interestingly enough, he had, because we've been talking about Alzheimer's and memory loss and dementia and stuff like that, because both our fathers are ironically enough, experiencing it at the same time. In the book How Not to Die, it tells you how not to get Alzheimer's, and one of the things I found interesting was that they're saying that people who have they think that the Alzheimer's is caused by blockages of the arteries to the brain. So in other words, as the arteries get narrower and less blood flow goes there, the cells, the brain cells can die off.
That kind of
So
makes sense.
I was thinking, my dad had a triple bypass, so he had blockages in his arteries, of his coronary arteries, which probably means that he has blockages in the arteries that supply his brain too. So the fact that he had a heart attack 10 years ago kind of almost like was like a foreshadowing of what might have would happen to him now, later in life. So
Does that mean I need to exercise?
it means that you should get your coronary arteries checked. I think that's I know mine are clean, so that's good. But you don't eat anything, so how would you have any blockages in your arteries? You have to eat food to get blockages, don't you?
Yeah, I guess so.
I see Logan just walked into the room with a very red face, which means he was outside playing. All right, let's go through some Derek's questions, and we'll wrap this thing up. Chris, do you ever tell your clients to stop training legs because they overpower the rest of their body? For example, Rami has giant legs that often look way bigger than everything else on him.
I've told only a couple people to stop training legs, but for short, 4 or 5 weeks at a time. But as people who stop training legs will tell you that their upper body shrinks too.
Yep. Like
Very weird.
Squatting builds mass all over. I don't know who's the first person to say that, but it's certainly true.
I think Fred Hatfield.
You might be right. Chris, do you think Sergio can make top 10 Olympia this year or not?
I don't think he's not doing the Olympia.
Oh,
so that leaves me out of that question.
Yeah, exactly.
And two, top 10 of the Olympia is it's a tough nut to crack, and it's so, it seems like every year we have this kind of almost shoo-in for who the top 4 or 5 most likely are going to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
And 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and 11th, and 12th, and 13th.
It's tough to predict, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to predict. And if any one of those guys, hit their lifetime best, whoever was like 13th last year, 12th, and 10th, move up to 7th, and the guy who's 7th could fall down to 10th. It's hard to say.
What were the other common drugs during Arnold's days? We all know Dianabol and Supremabol, but there had to be more.
No idea. I'm not that old.
I don't even know either. Probably Decker, I'm sure. Anavar. No, Chris, in your opinion, what was the most controversial Olympia? 80, 81, 97, 01, 07?
For me, the most controversial Olympia
I know what you're going to say.
Franco winning over Tom Platz and Danny Padilla.
Oh, okay. I didn't predict that one. I thought you were going to say 01 Olympia. JV,
No, because
Ronnie
Coleman,
VJ.
Coleman is Coleman. I mean, he's still freaky, right?
Yeah, no, he still looked good.
I mean, if you go back and look at that, Franco had one leg.
True.
And
that was a gift.
He's going up against Tom Platz that year with wacky
Best
legs.
Best legs in the history of bodybuilding, yeah.
And had an upper body that was, for once in his life, he must not have cut the sodium, as Fuchs would say, the last 3 days, because his upper body was full.
Yeah.
And if you look at pictures there, Danny Padilla was just freaky.
Yeah.
Danny Padilla is one of the most underrated bodybuilders, probably. One of many underrated, but he's just an underrated bodybuilder.
He was like the Lee Priest of that era,
Oh, he looked freaky. Paper-thin skin, crazy separated quads, arms, back, delts, you name it, he had it.
Has George taken credit for helping him when he was like 15?
No, I was surprised because they're in the same area.
Yeah, I know.
Rochester.
All right, last question from our friend
another
Derek.
Guy to have on the show, Dave. Another.
Yeah, Danny Padilla would be a good guy to have on the show.
A lot of stories.
Chris, what do you think of a conversation between Nasser El-Somebody and Kai Green would be like?
Oh my goodness, what a great! you deserve an award for just coming up with that idea.
That's a good idea. I know.
Who would interview? Well, NASA would not want to like. NASA would not have good things to say about Kai.
No.
Right?
No. He doesn't have good things to say about anything. Anyone? Have you ever heard him say anything good about anyone but himself?
No. He'd be offended that you group them together, and say that he would just. I can't even think of.
He would call him Godzilla or something like that, right?
No. He'd say.
That's what he called Zorian, right? Is that what he called Dorian? Godzilla. Gutzilla.
Backzilla.
Oh, Backzilla. Oh, he's Backzilla.
Like he had nothing else.
Yeah.
I had to go against Backzilla, and Kai Green. Phil Heath. Phil Heath should have pushed him off the stage when he hit him with his ponytail. And if I was there in that show, I would have. I
would have. Yes. Now, but
Joe Weider signed me and Fuchs because he liked massive guys who are over 5'11" and taller, and he's only 5'8", and it makes him look squatty. And
no, NASA would pick on Kai Green's lack of education because he grew up in like
you got it.
Foster. He'd be like, yes, he's very ignorant and he is.
I speak 5 languages. I heard Kai Green on Broadway conjugate a verb wrong.
He is very ignorant, and I don't want to have a discussion with him because he is speaking like the street language, and I don't understand that. And he would go into a whole spiel like that.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Independent education, right?
Derek sent us more questions.
I don't want to say it.
I can't believe it. All right, let me just bang these out because these are quick questions. Just give me 1 2-word answers. What country are your favorite cigars from?
Cuba.
Okay, he's been smoking Nicaraguan cigars lately, he said. He likes them. What is the exercise you think
Don't send them up, huh? Don't send them.
Don't
send them
send
up to live to 100. If you send the cigars, I'll live to like 40.
That's right.
Even though I'm already 50.
What is the exercise you think bodybuilders do that is a complete waste of time?
The way they do T-bar rows. They do it like Coleman, which is a bicep whipping exercise. Nobody does T-bars properly.
Yeah. Are you a Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, or Led Zeppelin fan?
None of the above.
Okay. Have you watched F is for Family on Netflix, created by one of the biggest comics, Bill Burr?
Of course not. I don't have time to. I'm managing a household. I don't have time to. The truth is, I do not know how to turn on my TV in my house except the one in the bedroom.
Your kids probably do, though.
Yeah, because there's 3 remote controls and I don't know how to do it. And they show me, and I do Dave, didn't you say it's hard to learn stuff when you said the lady's never going to become a doctor because it's just hard to learn that stuff?
Yeah.
A remote control, they you push this button. I'm like, well, wait, I don't have my glasses. And I put on my glasses and they fogged up. I wipe them. And then they're like, push this button and this button and this button. And I said, just put it on CNN, please. And then I pretend that I paid attention.
Yeah. That's funny.
I pretend that I paid attention. It's terrible.
You're like my dad. Last question? What's the lowest low you've experienced that you're willing to share?
Lowest low. Thank God I have not had a lowest low.
Well, cancer's got to be pretty low, I would think. Right?
No, I think of that all the time. I've never. You know what? I'm not Mr. Crazy Optimist, but I'm definitely not Mr. Pessimist.
Right.
So I've never had a period where I can use the word to say I was so depressed. I've had periods where like everyone else where you go down, but I've never had a period where I felt like bad about myself, bad about decisions.
Yeah.
I always have this little flip side of okay, that was a bad decision, or this is a terrible situation. What are the alternatives? And knowing that there are alternatives that you can decide for yourself has always helped me avoid pitfalls. Because I know people who get really depressed. I mean, I'm sure you do too, Dave. And and a lot of it's bodybuilders, and I know a lot of people. And people tell me all they're in their workings, and people get down, like way down that I thought is possible. So.
Yeah, I get upset if a snake doesn't delivers a bad clutch of eggs, but that's about it. I try not to allow that negativity to penetrate me.
But the flip side, Dave, because I don't have those deep lows, I've been criticized by lots of people from not having the crazy highs.
Well, I'd rather be even keeled. I think that's a better way to be. So you're always optimistically looking forward to the future, and I think that's a good way to be. I just want to give some shout-outs. The Mile High Pro show was this past weekend. Shirokwa Shabazz won the men's physique. In the women's pro physique, Mila Ash from Irving, Texas wins that. In the masters physique, David Odom from Eugene, Oregon wins that. And congratulations to all the winners and qualifiers for the Olympia. The Masters Pro will not qualify for the Olympia, however. And it looks like they had a successful outing there. Puerto Rico Pro results won't be in because they're taking place Sunday, and we're recording this on Sunday, so we'll report those next week. Johnny Styles is out there covering that event for us. So, Chris, that's going to take us to the end of this wonderful episode. I enjoy speaking to you every Sunday morning. It's my solitude. And until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.